This is Crave News Money with Peter Van Voorhis.
And joining us now is Brian Harrington. Brian is an entrepreneur, he's a political activist, and he's here to tell us all about how the shutdown's affecting California, why we may need to look at alternative forms of currency, and all the different things that are now affecting our world. Brian, welcome to Crave News.
Hey, really appreciate it. Thanks, Peter.
So, Brian, you're in Orange County, California right now. You're in the middle of all this shutdown, and you're really involved with politics there. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
To be honest, I'm very frustrated. It's very weird to me that I can't find any local leaders of either party that are kind of advocating for opening the shutdown.
And why do you think that is? Because there's so many people, both on the Republican and Democrat side, that want this shutdown to continue. But as we all know, and as you've seen, in Orange County, there are so many small businesses that are not only not getting relief bills, but they're also being terribly affected by this shutdown. Why do you think local leaders, especially when their tax revenue is dependent on these businesses being open, why do you think they want to keep things being shut down?
Yeah, so look, with any of these questions, there's a ton of different ways to slice it. And what I try to really do is come at things from different angles, or at least say things that are different that people haven't heard before. And so part of what bothers me about local politicians and why I think they're trying to continue the shutdowns is they just don't know. Like, honestly, the majority of people that just run for city council, I'm not sure they've been forced to be a leader and make hard decisions. And so what happens is you get these city council people that just copy and paste instructions from the state into their channels. And that bothers me. It bothers me that we're not seeing just be a free thinker. That's what everyone on the internet, probably the majority of your audience just craves free thinkers. That's why we all watch YouTube. That's why we're all searching for alternative forms of media. And we really need our local leaders to kind of step up and be creative and just be interesting, be different.
Well, you need local leaders to actually lead, not just copy what the CDC is doing and not just having a top-down approach. And speaking of local leaders needing to lead in some better ways, we've seen all over the country a real crackdown on civil liberties. There's a crackdown on freedom of assembly. There's a crackdown on people's liberty to go out of their home and actually go do work. There's so many other civil liberties that are going away. Which ones concern you most and why?
The state government literally said you're not allowed to turn the key on a building that you pay a lease on, walk inside and do services for money. That is completely against, this has shook me to the core of, what are we doing here?
Yeah. What do you think the long-term effects of this shutdown is going to be in terms of civil liberties? Because businesses aren't always going to be shut down forever, but different things like spying on citizens to try and track who has diseases or who you've come into contact with. These are things that can be temporary kind of emergency powers that often last, or I should say more than often, almost always last beyond the emergency. Are there any specifically that you're concerned about and why?
Because it just is, it's just happening. The technology and the tracking, all that stuff just is happening. I guess what bothers me the most is just the real tangible, I saw a video on Twitter of a girl who was opening up her haircutting shop, and just the check-in process of stand in this line, then sign this paper, then wave through the window, then go back to your car, then wait for them to call you. And then when they call you, then you walk in. That kind of stuff is just so tangible, security theater, that it really bothers me.
Other things that are tangible too are the bailout bill, the federal bailout bill, specifically the third version of it. It was supposed to help small businesses. It really did neither of those, and it appeared to be a bipartisan bailout of big corporations. You, as an American taxpayer, as a political activist, what are you hearing from your friends about the bailout bill, especially the ones that are business owners?
To be honest, a lot of my friends are on the internet now at this point, and just Twitter is a way that I keep in touch with almost all my friends, and they're all into Bitcoin. And I can break down Bitcoin really simply for people. The money is broken. The money that the Federal Reserve is printing is broken. Inflation is kind of this buzzword, but it doesn't hold its value.
I'm going to cut you off here quickly, Brian. Let's back it up, just because I want to make sure everyone listening can understand kind of the little bits of stuff that you're talking about. Can you sort of lay out for everyone what you think about Bitcoin and the Fed and all of that stuff, and just try and keep it not too jargony, but just give us a little summary of it, and then we can delve into that stuff.
Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is hard capped money that is not printed by politicians. That's the reason why it's so powerful. Like, that's the reason why it's such a powerful tool for freedom, because you can see how when the Federal Reserve prints money and promises it to people, they're picking winners and losers. They're picking corporations over individuals. If you Google the Cantillon effect, it's that people that are closest to the new money spigot they have a higher advantage than the people farther away from the money spigot. That's what Bitcoin looks to solve. We're looking to separate politicians from the money printing.
And so what is our monetary system now? Give people kind of an overview of how that works and how it should work, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so right now you're seeing what happens. A crisis happens, everyone needs cash, and so they just print the money out of thin air. The currency used to be backed by gold, but it's no longer backed by gold. And so just even that fact, kind of starts to open people's eyes. And that's why you're starting to see kind of just people are asking the right questions. Like, how is money created? Like, why do we pay taxes if the federal government can just print trillions of dollars whenever it wants?
And so why is Bitcoin a better alternative to that system? Because you have a lot of people who say, this money, it's backed up by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Are you essentially making the argument that we shouldn't have full faith in the credit of the United States government, and why?
Yeah, you could come to that conclusion. Bitcoin has a hard cap, which makes it a better measuring stick of value. It allows entrepreneurs to take risks and have a more reasonable understanding of what's going to happen. Because right now what happens is there's this fake argument between capitalism and socialism. But the United States already has socialism. We already print the money and hand it to rich people. And so the profits are privatized and hedge funds win. But when they make bad bets and a virus overtakes the earth or whatever, and businesses have to close down, we socialize the losses. This money printing, this debt that's greater than the money printing, that's just future production. We're using up future production of the United States in order to bail out corporations right now.
And what started the whole process of the Fed printing money and all the different things that they do to change the money supply? When was the first time they did that, and why?
Throughout history, there's always been lots of different forms of money. Society moved from, pebbles to rocks to shells to salt to cattle or whatever. And so for a long time, gold has had the longest run as a monetary metal of the earth. And the reason for that is because the amount that comes out of the ground is so small compared to the large stockpiles in vaults. So, the people in society chose to have paper notes, paper IOUs, that are basically exchangeable for gold to just kind of ease up on commerce and make it more easy to kind of pass paper around, because it's easier than passing rocks around. But when the supply of all that gold got centralized, politicians chose to break that peg, force people to, turn in their gold, no longer have it be convertible. And that's what kind of led to the fiat experiment that we're kind of on worldwide right now.
And fiat currency, just to clarify, fiat currency is the system we're currently on now. It's where the government can decide how much money is out there, and it doesn't have to be backed up by gold. So that makes sense. So you're not advocating us going back to the gold standard. What you're saying is we should look forward and we should use Bitcoin as a type of hard money. Why is Bitcoin hard money?
Bitcoin is open source software, and the software says there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And it's been around this is great. It's been around for 11 years now. People have been passing around and banging on this, and it's gained value, and it's trading at, about $7,500 per Bitcoin today. And the code is what says it has the hard cap. And you as the individual are able to verify that. And you as the individual are able to buy a little computer and run the code at your house, effectively making you have true ownership of the money supply. Because when you have a $100 bill inside your wallet, the Fed can just print more and more and more $100 bills, devaluing the one that's in your wallet. With Bitcoin, that can't happen because you run the entire ledger, all the transactions that have ever happened on Bitcoin, you have a copy of them.
Right now, there's a lot of people using Bitcoin, but for that to replace the money supply, there's a lot of steps, and at this point, it's really theoretical. It seems like there could be a popular push for that, but there's a lot of people with an entrenched interest in keeping a fiat money system that wouldn't want to do that. So what do you think are going to be some of the impediments or roadblocks to implementing a system like that, if any?
Two things on that. I can talk about the paths that it will take to get there, but also what I like about Bitcoin is that it's opt-in 24/7, 365. Like, if I understand we all still live in a fiat world, keep your dollars. Your dollars are for paying taxes and for paying rent and paying the people that need that. Your Bitcoin is for protecting your savings from inflation. What's crazy through this whole thing is more people in the world are using dollars than ever. Like, the demand for dollars around the world is huge and intense. And what's going to happen is a lot of these smaller currencies and smaller countries are going to start dollarizing themselves even more than they already are. It's those currencies you're going to see fall off the map first, and Bitcoin is just going to continue to chunk up the chain, until, and it's going to be this long process. Currency wars are nothing new, but now you have a verifiable digital good that has a harder scarcity than gold. So gold, Bitcoin, and the US dollar are kind of this trifecta that the market is going to try to figure out what should happen for the next a lot of years.
Yeah. I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. So you're making the argument that people should store their savings in Bitcoin instead of the US dollar because of inflation. On the contrary, the US dollar has never dropped 40% in one day. Bitcoin has. So if you're legitimately looking at this as a way to store savings and to retire on, how confident can you be that in 30 or 40 years, there's still going to be so much demand for Bitcoin?
That's why I would advocate, for a small dollar cost averaging way of doing it. I'm not advocating for moving your entire savings into it. I am advocating for, look at the history of what's happened over the past 11 years. Look at your, portfolio allocation, investment allocation. So I agree the value of dollars has not dropped in, 40% in one day, but, oil has, stocks have, real estate. I mean, I don't know if real estate has, but you kind of, you know what I mean? You kind of start to look at all these other things and comparing it and realizing that, Bitcoin has also increased a ton over the last, on almost any time frame you want also. And so I think my main message is it's been around for 11 years. It has earned a hard look from people.
Awesome. Brian Harrington, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed the interview, and we got to have you in here as our resident Bitcoin expert. You certainly know your stuff, and there's a lot more that I should do my research on and learn a bit about for our next talk. Brian, thank you for your time. Talk to you soon, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.